Everybody, as the world around us slowly begins to open back up, a lot of local kids are heading back to sports practices. So, what kinds of guidelines should parents and coaches keep in mind as they jump back into sports? Well, Mark Halstead is a pediatric sports medicine physician at St. Louis Children's Hospital, and he joins us via FaceTime with some answers for us this morning. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. I can completely understand a situation here where some parents and kids might choose to sit this one out, maybe sit on the sidelines for this season, but the truth is, sports can be really important to families and to kids too. Why is that?
Well, I think there's lots of things there. When you've had a long time off of being in something that you're active in, I think that's a basically a little carrot at the end of that rope there that people are looking to get back to. There's that sense of community that you have when you participate in sports. You get to be around your friends. It is something that keeps you physically active, and I think people are just looking to get back to being back together with other people.
I don't think there's much question about that. So, my understanding here, Doctor, is that Mercy, BJC, and SSM all sort of teamed up to form these guidelines. Is that accurate? And if so, why? It feels like you consider this to be very important.
Absolutely. It was something that I think we've seen gone on very well in our community over the course of the last couple of months dealing with the coronavirus, in that we are seeing our three major hospital systems collaborate on things. There's been a great task force that's been working on that to keep things throughout the community good. And we had several sports medicine providers and some pediatric infectious disease specialists get together to basically kind of give some guidance because we just haven't had any kind of clear consensus and clear guidance as far as what's
Right.
the best way and the safest way to get our kids back into sports participation while this is going on.
I know as a parent of young kids, that's been top of mind for me. My wife and I have talked a lot about that, and we've kind of reviewed what some of the activities they've been involved with would entail in terms of adapting to this new norm. So, walk us through some of these guidelines, these best practices that you've established, and how did you come to those?
So what we did is we took a lot of the recommendations that had already been out there as far as just proper things, keeping social distancing to start, good hygiene, making sure that people who are at risk for sure are wearing masks. We want to make sure that there is screening that's done. So one of the things that we recommend is that when kids are coming in to participate and coaches, is that people are checking temperatures ideally, and also making sure that they're going through a list of questions to make sure that they don't have any symptoms. We don't want to put people at risk as they get back into sports. We already know that sports do have a risk of injury by themselves, and we don't want to make sure we want to make sure that we're not adding additional risk to that with the virus. So we do have screening recommendations that are there. We also put together a phased approach for this so that there is phases for reopening back to sports. So, as an example, we put in a recommendation of June 15th for sports starting up. Now, we know that many sports have already started up in the St. Louis area, baseball in particular.
Hmm.
We're hoping that people will look at this guidance as a way to do it safer, making sure that they are looking at these types of things for screening. And then we have basically an approach to get kids back over the next several weeks. Part of that's for the virus, but part of that's also just smart returning to sports after a long layoff. We don't see any professional sports teams that are going to be jumping right back into competition right away, like we have seen a lot of the youth sports. So we want to keep kids safe, but we also want to make sure we're doing it in a way that keeps the spread of the virus to a minimum.
Sure, makes perfect sense. Before we let you go, any other sort of general best practices for parents or coaches or the kids themselves to keep in mind as they jump back in from the sidelines?
Yeah, I think it's making sure that we aren't just jumping right back into competition. Already in the last couple of weeks since
Right.
things have started up, I'm seeing a lot of kids who are having sore shoulders and elbows already from getting back into baseball too much too soon. So we just have to recommend that or remember that as we're starting to work our way back into sports, we just need to do it in a an easy fashion, remembering that kids probably haven't been doing formal practices because they've been shut down from those types of
Hmm.
things. So we don't want to overuse kids and then have them unfortunately shut their season back down again because of the fact that they're hurt or injured. So we have to think about that in the process too. And these guidelines that we put out are going to change. These are meant to get us through the summer, and hopefully, as we get to fall, we'll have some updated recommendations based on where things are at that time.
Well, I think you've done the most important part of the work, and that is just setting up these initial guidelines. And of course, it's a fluid situation; things could change. If there's an uptick in infectious cases of coronavirus, obviously that could change the game plan as well. But we're having the conversations, and we're not necessarily discouraging kids from physical activity, which I think is a great thing. Dr. Mark Halstead, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.